So when I decided that I was going to continue with art history, I decided to apply to a number of different schools. I was at that time living in Arizona, and I had an advisor who said, if you want to come west, you must go east, young man. And so I literally had never been anywhere on the East Coast, and I just chose all of what I was told were, the best schools, and I applied. So without knowing better, I applied to Yale and Harvard and Columbia and University of Delaware because I wanted to be an Americanist, Brown University, Penn. I just applied to all of them. And then I made a trip to go interview at many of them. And for some of them, I just arrived unannounced. I thought, oh, well, I'll just show up. Sometimes people were there, sometimes they weren't there. I didn't really understand. I'd never been to New York. I just kind of landed there. And it was after that turned out I was accepted at a lot of the schools, and I eventually chose to go to Brown. So I went to Brown University, where I received my MA and then my PhD. The idea was that I was going to go into museum work. I always intended to go into museum work as a curator. I thought I'd be a curator of decorative arts. And then through the course of my education, it became apparent that I could also be successful as a professor. And I was teaching a great deal at that point at Brown and then at the College of the Holy Cross. And so I decided that I would pursue becoming a professor. So I applied for many jobs, and I chose one that seemed to give me the best of both worlds. I was a professor of modern and contemporary art history, but I was also the director of their new art gallery. They had an art collection, and it allowed me to do exhibitions, but also to teach. And that actually went really well, but it was a lot of work on both sides. And so eventually they decided that there could be 2 full-time positions there, and I had to choose. So I decided that I would go through the tenure process, and that's what I did. So I became a tenured professor at Lawrence University of modern and contemporary art history. And in about 10 years into that, I just started to feel once again that I wasn't quite doing what I had wanted to do, and that was to work in museums and to work in a more collaborative environment, not only to be close to the art, but to have colleagues that you were involved with in the creation of larger projects. When you're a professor, there's a lot of wonderful things about being a professor, but one of the things that I didn't like was that when it came to my research and my scholarship, it was really just about me. And so you're isolated. You spend a lot of time alone, you're writing, you're reading, you're researching. And what I liked about the museum world was it was more collaborative. And so after a lot of thought and a lot of pain, I decided that I would give up tenure and go into the museum world and just see how it turned out. And that's what I did.